living holy lives. We are to reflect God's holiness in all relationships. Here now is Gene Getz.
Leviticus 19, verses 1 and 2. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Speak to the entire Israelite community. Tell them, be holy, because I, the Lord your God, am holy." And throughout this chapter, he deals with sexual sins particularly, but not just sexual sins. And he culminates in chapter 20, verse 26, with a very similar statement. "You are to be holy to me because I, the Lord, am holy. I have set you apart from the nations to be mine." You're not to follow the practices of the Egyptians or of the Canaanites. You're to be holy because I am holy. And it's interesting, there's a principle from Exodus that we looked at when we were studying Exodus. Verse 25, which I've called reflecting God's holiness. As members of God's spiritual family, we're to reflect God's holy character to those who are not yet his children. One of the major purposes for God saying, "Be holy as I am holy," is to reflect to the Egyptians, or in this case, the Canaanites, that they follow God. And they reflect the character of God in all of their relationships. Exodus 19, verses 3 and 6. Moses went up to the mountain to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain. This is when God's revealing the law. "This is what you must say to the house of Jacob. Explain to the Israelites. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to me." Brought you out of this mess. "And now if you will listen to me and carefully keep my covenant, you will be my own possession out of all the peoples. Although all the earth is mine," all people, "and you will be my kingdom of priests and my holy nation." For what purpose? To reveal my character to the world and those who don't know me. These are the words that you are to say, Moses, to the Israelites. And when you go into the New Testament, the Apostle Peter picks up on this in his first letter when he says, "Therefore get your minds ready for action, being self-disciplined, and set your hope completely on the grace to be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ," that is, when Jesus comes again. "As obedient children, do not be conformed to the desires of your former ignorance." In this case, like the Romans. Don't live like the Romans, because the Romans are described in Romans chapter 1 in terms of their moral lives and what they did. "But as the one who called you is holy, you also are to be holy in all your conduct." Here he's quoting from Leviticus. "For it is written, be holy, because I am holy." Now, the reflection and response question is, how can we become progressively more holy without becoming discouraged because of our human weaknesses? And we all have those human weaknesses. And in Peter's second letter, a powerful paragraph, here's the principle, and then I'll go to the scripture. Drawing on God's power, we're to do all we can to become mature followers of Jesus Christ. Two dimensions. There's the vertical, which is God's power. There's the horizontal, and that's obedience. And that's in balance. And so we read a beautiful passage of Scripture in 2 Peter. "For his divine power has given us everything required for life and godliness." The power that God exerted in raising Jesus Christ from the dead is the power that he wants us to draw on through his Spirit to live holy lives. "For his divine power has given us everything required for life and godliness. Through the knowledge of him," that's where it starts. How do we know God? Through Jesus Christ. Through his word. Through the knowledge of him. This is personal knowledge. This is not just head knowledge. This is knowing him in our hearts. "Through the knowledge of him who called us by his own glory and goodness." He called us to himself. And I love this next paragraph. "By these he has given us very great and precious promises." Wonderful promises throughout Scripture, such as, "I'll never leave you or forsake you." so that through them, these precious promises, you may what? Share in the divine nature. In other words, share in God's life within us in order to become more and more like Jesus Christ and reflecting God's holiness. So that through them you may share in the divine nature, escaping the corruption that is in the world because of evil desires. And here's a very interesting progression. It's a progression, but it's also an interrelated progression. When he says, for this very reason, make every effort, and there's the discipline. Make every effort. Number one, and I'm quoting from Scripture, to supplement your faith with goodness. Number two, goodness with knowledge. That's a continuation. Supplement with knowledge with self-control. Number four, self-control with endurance. Number five, endurance with godliness. Number six, godliness with brotherly affection. Number seven, brotherly affection with love. Now I say that's progression, but it's also interrelated. It's all interrelated in drawing upon the divine resources that God has given to us in Jesus Christ. So here's the principle. We are to reflect God's holiness in all of our relationships, moving from what we looked at last week, positional sanctification, set apart when God called us. Progressive sanctification, becoming more and more like Jesus until we are ultimately sanctified, transformed into His image where we will see Him as He is. And that is the biblical story of redemption.